Hi, thanks for joining me. Today I'm continuing the case knife series. This time I actually have knives. I've selected two today, which are the oldest ones I have. They're from the end of the 19th century through the early 1900s. This first knife predates the early Case Brothers Cutlery Company, and I'll show you what I mean here. I found a bit of history. I'll go over it as quick as I can. This was my dad's book. It was written in the 80s. It's the only source on this tang that I'm aware of. You can find this book on eBay if you want a copy. It's like 20 pages. All right, we'll get this out of the way. Starting at the top, we got Job, aka J.R. Case, the patriarch. He had at least one daughter and four sons, and one of his daughters, Teresa, married John Champlin, later of Cattaraugus. Champlin at the time, he was just a knife salesman, but in 1882, he contracted with some cutlery producers to make knives with his own stamp to sell. And he did pretty good because within a few years, all four of Teresa's brothers joined Champlin's new knife company, which was now called Cattaraugus. The Case brothers didn't stay very long, though. They all left the next year. Then in 1896, the three brothers that left Cattaraugus, minus W.R. Case, went on to form Case Brothers Cutlery. And these were the tangs they used. That's the right stamp I'm going to look at in a moment, but the pencil mark is not mine, sorry. This early Case Brothers company was when they had other manufacturers creating their knives before they had enough money to buy their own production line and start the official Case Brothers company in 1905. This time period is also when they came up with the tested and XX branding. So then this old, now defunct Case Brothers company was pre-1905 and also different, of course, than W.R. Case & Sons. Not too much later in 1914, the Case Brothers factory in New York burned to the ground, and then they just lost all interest in making knives. They threw their hands in the air, and they gave their tested and XX trademarks to their brother, W.R. Case, who had a surviving and independent cutlery company. All right, let's check it out. This is the oldest case knife I've ever seen myself. I'm going to date it as 1896 to 1900. Most sources are going to date this knife between 1902 and 1915, which is known as the period which the Case brothers operated. But what do I know? That's my source, and I'll leave it to the experts. It's just a little tuxedo knife. It's just about 3 inches. It's heavier than I'd expect it to be. I have a ton of pen blades. Just feels hefty. I'm not smart enough to tell what the handle material is. I'm pretty sure it's not celluloid. Best bet is ebonite, hard rubber sort of thing. It could be horn, dyed horn, just a possibility. It could be celluloid. I'm calling it ebonite. And then checking out the bolsters and the pins and liner, they're all going to be nickel silver. This is probably 130-ish years old, 120 years old. It was carried for a while, not extensively. It's got pocket wear on the outside to be expected. And the blade, some nicks, some sharpening, nice patina. I really like the blade, actually. I think it makes it look pretty cool. The blade itself is cool. It's a sturdy spear point. I like the whole blade style. I have it on another Ulster pen blade from the same period with the long pull below a dual sharpened swedge. And then here's the stamps from earlier to compare it. And I couldn't find another source, but I don't spend too long on each knife. And then, like I was saying, this shows the tested and XX trademark on the blade from a time before they had their own factory, which was starting 1905. So this knife would have been outsourced to another established cutlery company, but then the Case brothers would have maintained control of the process, the tested, and the quality, of course. And it is a quality knife. And the second blade is tiny. I'm pretty sure it's meant to be that way, though. When I first saw it, my first thought, especially with the larger nick, my first thought was it was ground down, like from sharpening. But if you look, it's even, right? It's straight and proportionate to the tang, I would say, I guess. There's no major sharpening marks on it, maybe minor, but it's in good shape. It's also stamped, but it cuts out the company part. And I noticed both tangs are kind of misprinted. The blades, they move like they should. They're strong, except instead of half stops, it just kind of gets a little weak right here in the middle. but it's very snappy. I think it's supposed to be that way. I don't know. And then the other blade is exactly the same. It behaves exactly the same, whereas it's strong, but where you would think there should be a half stop, it just kind of pauses, then bam. So that's all I found out about this knife. And due to time, I'm looking at just one more knife in this video. This is a 1914 to 1920 Case Brothers number 9393. 9 in this case is a French pearl celluloid, 3-blade Stockman. The handle qualities on the lower end, it looks very nice. French pearl, 100 years old celluloid. It's got minor shrinkage, but no damage. It might have affected the color of the blades a bit. The blades are very rigid, very tough to open, and there's no half stops here. They're aged. They're in decent shape. The clip and sheep's foot are excellent. The clip blade has this full swedge. It looks great. They've all got this great aged patina, not unlike the last one. Lots of scratches. I don't see sharpening at all. And then the spay is unusual to me. I think someone sharpened the tip to like a razor point or razor edge is what's going on here. Perhaps they actually used it as a spay. If you look here at the image of the same knife from Sargent's 1989 edition, page 127, it's more rounded, maybe not even a spay at all. And then the stamps are kind of weird. There's 2 different ones here. The master blade is this Case Brothers stamp with Bradford, PA on it. And according to CaseXX.com's Tang stamp library, this was used 1904 to 1920. Then on the other 2 blades, they both have the same later circled Case XX, which dates it to 1914 to 1920. Obviously, the later dates are the correct ones, so this Stockman is Case Brothers 1914 to 1920. And this one, I'm actually going to pay attention to closing it. This could go bad. I'll just close it on my own here. But there it is, a pretty rare knife with 2 rare stamps. And that's all I have for this video. I'll continue my case series tomorrow with a selection of knives from the 1920s to 1940s. If you'd like to see that and hundreds of other knives I'm researching as I go through my father's knife collection, please subscribe.